Hello everyone, we are continuing on with my NHL season previews playlist, and we are going to be talking about the Winnipeg Jets. Now before we start, please make sure to subscribe to my channel if you are new and you want to see more of my content, more hockey content. I plan on doing this as a full-time career. That's why I put out almost 500 videos. But yeah, if you're not sure, you don't have to subscribe just yet. Maybe watch the video and see if you want to stick around. Now let's talk about the Jets. Winnipeg had a disheartening season, going 32 and 11, for 89 points and a long off-season vacation. And with some new faces and a chance to reflect on the season last year, what should the storylines be to watch out for the Manitoba team, as well as their expectations, in my opinion, or what I think they should expect for themselves. The first storyline will be the most important, that being coaching. Paul Maurice was the man in charge for part of 9 seasons before realizing his time in Winnipeg was likely done. Said he felt like his voice wasn't the right voice to lead the team anymore, and then the franchise used Dave Lowry for a spell too, who went 26-22-6 before deciding to go with the former Dallas Stars head coach Rick Bowness. Now, the decision was a mutual one, primarily on the grounds that Bowness was not interested in a rebuild on another team or with another team. His words, not mine, by the way. And it appears this team isn't a franchise that is bad enough to be one of the worst teams in the league this season. And he gets to have a roster that could compete, but also has a lot of work to do defensively if they're going to get back into the playoffs. Last season, their team was, if you want to say, defensively lazy, or they just weren't put in the right situations, whatever you want to say. The Jets allowed the 7th most shots against per 60, 6th most scoring chances against per 60, and 3rd most high danger chances against per 60. And it's rough. It's probably a big reason why Connor Hellebuyck's season stats don't look as good as many people would expect them to. Trust me, it is really a defensive effort or a defensive fault of his team, not him. And now Rick gets to try and replicate this, or to remedy this, I should say. And it's really been a persistent issue for a while now. I can't say a lot because Maurice has been there for a while and they haven't been around too long with this version of the franchise. But when Maurice is there, you could kind of see this being a problem for them. Now, we're going to see if it gets fixed. Fortunately for his new team, that is Bowness's reputation he's had in his time with the league. And if he's able to give his team more of a defensive element, then there's hope yet this franchise could get back on the right track. In Dallas, Bowness's boys were 13th for shots against per 60, while being 5th for expected goals against per 60. Both good signs defensively, and for a team that would be looking to get on the right track, that could be you this season if you buy into Bowness' system and see how it goes. Especially because you have one of the league's best goaltenders, in my opinion. So if things get better, and it's hard to imagine them getting worse, you'd think the Jets would be in a great spot with a revamped defensive effort and Hellebuyck in net for 60-plus games. Things could be looking really good for them on the up and up. As for another storyline, though, it concerns a former first-round pick, that being Cole Perfetti. Now, Cole was taken in the 2020 draft with the 10th overall pick and has seen 18 games of NHL action, all coming last season. In that time, he had 2 goals and 5 assists for 7 points while playing a little over 14 minutes a night. The question now becomes, what can he do for his team, and could it be in a bigger role? Well, according to DailyFaceoff.com, Perfetti is going to be on the top line with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. That makes sense too, since he played more minutes with these two forwards than anyone else, and it's not even really close. Also, 4 of his 5 assists were attached to the other 2 mentioned players, meaning this could be a good sign of things to come when he's out there and playing with those guys. He'll get more time on the power play too. If he is on the first power play unit after having average a minute 15 seconds per game last season, he could see a spike in the positive points there. He was also 4th on the team for individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 on the power play, I believe. But we have to take into account that we only got to see him play about 20 minutes on the man advantage. All said, though, if he averages some of the things what he did from last season, he would be on pace for a 32-point season in a 482-game schedule. But I really doubt that he wouldn't get 50 points more than that. If you're playing on the top line in the top power play unit, you are not getting 30 points on the season. Otherwise, you are going to be, jumbled up with the lines, and that's not how it works. If he was pushing 32 points on average, 40 games in the year, they're shuffling the lineup. That's just the reality of the matter. But here's my thing. With more playing time comes more opportunities, and with more opportunities, you're in a better spot to put up more goals and assists for your team. I'm not sure what his second year will hold for the Ontario-born player, but I do know that his team could probably use him right now. As for another thing, though, that the Winnipeg Jets could use right now, it is concerning our final storyline, which actually ties into Perfetti, and that is about Pierre-Luc Dubois and whether or not he wants out. Remember, when he was traded to Winnipeg, I was one of those people that said Winnipeg won the trade. I don't think Laine is going to want to stay in Columbus. Dubois, while he had some issues, especially on the back end with the Blue Jackets, kind of out of nowhere, he was a guy that people felt had more value as a center when Laine was a streaky goal scorer. Here we are now, though, and the situation is playing out a little bit more differently than I expected. I'm not going to lie, I am a Laine fan, but I was shocked when he signed that 4-year extension. Glad to see he's doing better with a new coach. Didn't figure he'd pair well with Torts, so when Torts went, I thought maybe that was going to be a better situation. But Dubois' situation is a little bit different. He wants to be traded to Montreal, or at least that is the rumor from his agent. Make no mistake that while Dubois seemed to have a tumultuous time now with two teams, I still think he is a very good center. Whether or not he wants out, that's an entirely different question. As of late, he seems to have said the right things. I want to be here. I'm on a contract through this point, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, kind of got to look through that and say, is he just saying this because he doesn't want to stir the pot, or does he actually mean it? But I do think he is still capable of being a top-line center on some teams and a second-line, maybe third-line center on a really deep team after a playoff push. I think most teams he'd be a second-line center at worst. And the reality is, I don't think the Jets could afford to lose him without getting a return back. Why? Pretty obvious. He is good. He's 24, and he's coming off a 28-goal season, which was a career best for him, and he's been able to consistently play in the lineup practically every night in Columbus and Winnipeg since his NHL debut. He's played 81 games, I want to say, in 4 of his seasons. Maybe not 4, but it's been at least 3, and I don't know if we've just seen his ceiling yet or not. I think there could be more. I don't ever see him being a 100-point guy. He's not going to be Connor McDavid. He's not going to be a Nathan McKinnon-esque player in that regard where he's just able to rack up all these points. But I do think he's still a player that has potential and has shown that he's a good player and a key player for a franchise. 2 different teams now. I mean, let's not forget that hat trick against the Maple Leafs. Sorry, Maple Leafs fans, but just had to bring it up. And he might not be super likable by the fans, but if things could be worked out, they need to be. Plus, if he is able to play well with Cole Perfetti, you really wouldn't want to take away the youngster's line mate, a guy that has youth, that has experience, but also a guy that could play well with Perfetti for years to come if they end up sticking them together on a line. That just wouldn't be good for a 10th overall pick to have a guy he plays out with and then get the carpet pulled out from underneath him. So I think that would be a bad thing early on. That being said, we need to figure out, or I guess the Jets need to figure out what's going on, because he is an RFA after this season, and it does make things a little bit more interesting. I think it could help the Jets, though. Should he want to go to Montreal and say, I have to go to Montreal, I have to get out of here, I can't do this anymore, they could use that as leverage. He is an RFA, and they could say, that's fine, we are able to possibly keep him going forward. We don't want to trade him to you if you're going to give us a weak return. Maybe, just maybe, a little sign and trade action. I know obviously in the NBA that is a huge deal. NHL, it's kind of weird how that works, but maybe, just maybe, anything could happen here if Montreal truly wanted him and felt like they could give up a decent return. But unless a deal got done soon, I'd expect this to be a big talking point on if he is in or out of this. And I would say the deadline approaching, what would it be? Probably about March. We could see probably about March things heat up if they're not playing well. So having talked about all these things, what are my expectations for this team this season? Personally, I would say I think they could be in the playoff hunt and possibly make it too. I'm not sold yet. There is a variety of things that I am a little bit skeptical about. Yes, the roster is certainly not bad, but Bonus's hard-nosed style that really we got to play this defensive game might be problematic with some of these guys that aren't as interested in playing defense and might not buy into it. If they can't buy into it, that's going to be a problem, and especially like Dubois, if he butts heads with another coach that is very strong-headed, that could be an issue. Now, Bowness seems to be a lot better of a player's coach compared to Torts, but I feel like that could be an issue, and that is one of those things. What happens there if things go sour quickly? Because then that leverage against a team like Montreal could be just gone. As for other things, maybe some improved defensive play could help, led by Connor Hellebuyck in net, but I still worry if Hellebuyck got injured. What if some of their top guys were out? Because I don't know if some of the other guys would be able to fill in for them and get the job done overall. That being said, I do think they could make a run if they got in there. Hellebuyck was healthy and didn't have to play however many games if they threw him out there, like a 2017 Cam Talbot, and we'll give to see. So what are your expectations, though? Because I want to hear those down below in the comments. Tell me what you think. Is Winnipeg going to win the Stanley Cup? Are they going to be the worst team in the league? I would be surprised if they're the worst team in the league, just with the state of some other teams. But anyway, let me know in the comments down below. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. I would really appreciate it if you plan on staying around and watching these videos. Everybody, please stay safe. Have a great night, and you go off hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.